Hello, welcome once again to Off the Shelf Books on Tour. I'm your host, Veronica Andrews. We have with us a gentleman who's driven from Maine this morning to be with us. Thank you. Nice morning to drive.
Yes, beautiful.
Mr. Guy Cote. And the book is Long Live the King, all about Charlemagne. And my first impression is, can you see it being made into a movie?
Oh, of course, I'd love that. I've had a lot of people come up to me and say that to me.
It is so action-packed.
Hmm.
There is so much going on, and your descriptions are so well worded. I don't think a camera could follow that action around.
Well, you'd have to have a good director, I guess.
Oh my, better than that. In the first 5 pages, I think there's 5, 6 shoot 'em ups already, and somebody jumps out a window.
Right.
Are you an action creature? Do you like action movies?
Well, I grew up with those, the Rambos and the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and all that stuff. But I wanted to create more of a thinking person's action adventure stories. So, but yeah, I love adventure stories.
No kidding.
I love something that transports you from wherever you're sitting reading it. It just takes you away on a little vacation. That's what I try to do.
Well, it's definitely not boring.
Well, thank you. That's good news.
And I didn't have to go back when it's so many characters, and there are a lot of characters. Sometimes I have to go back and figure out who I'm reading about. And you managed not to do that. You led me along the way, and I knew who each personality was, even though I'd met them maybe 50 pages before.
Right.
So thank you for that, because I always lose my place when I do that.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that.
How long did it take you from inception to end?
Well, the germ of this story, the gem, I should say, it started, God, 15 years ago. I came up with an initial concept, but actually from when I finally said, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write this book, from that point to when it was finally done was 7 years. Yeah, well, it was 3 years of research. I spent a tremendous amount of time researching because it's all, as you know, about Charlemagne. So I wanted to make sure that I was going to bring something to the table that people couldn't find in a regular history book. So I really scoured, and I traveled, and I interviewed, and I did all these things. And I found a lot of stuff that people don't normally know about Charlemagne.
The little nuances, yes.
Right,
That's
exactly.
I read 7 newspapers a day, and that's what I love is those little stories that are on page 12 that are this little last night in the news when the 9/11 hit, Helen Keller's entire archive was destroyed.
Oh, wow.
But who knew that?
Right, right,
That's one of those page 26 stories
right.
that you just don't hear about, doesn't hit the front page. But
Sure.
the little things, I love the fact that the amulet, which is on the book cover, that is supposed to be a part of the crucifixion cross.
That's right. This was actually Charlemagne's pendant. He wore this every day of his life, and he was buried with it. And according to medieval legends, encased inside that, and I don't know if the cameras can pick that up, but encased inside that are 2 slivers of wood that are supposedly pieces of the cross of Jesus. You know, back in the Middle Ages, they were very big into relics. And so they would save relics, pieces of bone from a saint and that sort of thing, and they would essentially believe that that was a message from God or something, a talisman from God. So if you can get anything that's connected with Jesus himself, well, obviously that takes greater significance. So they were constantly looking for, it's called the true cross. And Charlemagne had a number of pieces that he claimed were of the true cross. And he had 2 of them fashioned in the shape of a cross, and he wore that amulet.
As I remember, an oddity, you cannot sell a relic.
Right.
I can give it to you, you can give it to me. I don't know who arrests you if you do sell it, but I have seen instances.
Interpol, maybe? I don't know.
I have seen instances where you cannot sell a relic.
That's right.
It is against the law.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people believe very, very strongly in the power of these relics. So, yeah.
And wasn't it later made into a crown?
Not that particular piece, but as I said, Charlemagne had a number of pieces of the cross. So at one point, yes, he had part of it fashioned into the crown, which I also refer to in the book.
Now, he went 125 years known as the father of Europe. That's pretty long-standing trend.
Well, even today, actually, they refer to him as the father of Europe. Yeah, you know what I found in my research is that Charlemagne, the legends of Charlemagne are enormous, and they stretch all throughout medieval and up to the modern day history. And so what I was able to reference is a lot of Charlemagne kept popping up in the historical record long after he was dead, and that's what I was able to utilize as I created this fictional tale.
A myth that was so believable that it would not die.
That's right. And what I did is I tapped into that, and I said, well, if you connect it with the power of Jesus, who is eternal, you know, then you can say, okay, let's extrapolate that to the next level. That's what I did.
Now, when you write, do you close yourself in a little room? Do you use an iPad? Do you use a computer?
Yeah, well, I have to use a computer. I couldn't go back to the days of Hemingway where, you know,
A longhand?
or even longhand. I actually started out writing longhand years ago, but no, now I have to have solitude and me and the computer. And I usually with this book I had numerous manuscripts and books and everything stacked all around me. My writing room looked like a hurricane had come through it, you know. But I knew where everything was, and I could reference it quickly and that sort of thing.
And that works. How much time in a day do you devote to writing?
Well, I was a teacher. When I was writing this book, I was a teacher, and so what I would do is I would work all day, and then I'd come back, grade papers, have dinner, and then work till 12 o'clock at night, from like 7 till 12 or 8 till 12. But now that this book came out, I stopped teaching, and now I write full time. So now I'm putting in easily 12-hour days, whereas before it was shorter. But
every day?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thanks.
You say it's part of a series. How many?
There'll be 3 in the series.
3?
The interesting thing is, though, that I can take off with these characters. I could take off in many different directions. I mean, I could.
You could do an encyclopedia.
Oh, sure. I could keep this thing going forever.
Every one of them is unique, different, scoundrel, good guy, bad guy.
Right.
Very, very distinctive personalities. Do you model them after people you knew?
I've had people ask me that. Am I so and so? And I said, no, you're not. But you do as a writer. You pay attention to people and personalities, and you maybe take a snippet from this person, a snippet from that person, and you want to try to make it believable and realistic. So.
Well, you did that.
Well, thank you.
You really did. Did you ever count how many? Do you do an outline?
Oh, yeah.
How many personalities are in it?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'd say at least, well, what I try to do is I try to make sure that each character is not just a cardboard cutout. I want them to be a real person. So as a result, even my minor characters, I want them to...
They count.
Right, exactly. So
I figured about 30, if not 50.
Probably, yeah. I never gave it a count, but yeah, I would say that's probably realistic, yeah.
Well, they kept on bouncing in and out constantly,
right.
and there were no repetition, and there were no two alike,
right.
Which is to your credit that you didn't just gather a crowd of people and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right. I always dislike cookie cutter stories and cookie cutter characters, and if you're going to take the time to write something, and if I'm going to take the time to read it, make it real for me, and that's what I try to do. And
have you found it to be well received? Yeah,
very well. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of positive response on it. I constantly get people asking me, when's the sequel coming out? I actually just finished I finished 2 unrelated books, and now I'm tackling the sequel as soon as I get back.
So we have to wait even longer?
Well, no, it won't take 7 years. Now that I'm writing full time, I can. I know my characters. It took a while to get to know the characters, but I know my characters now. I know where I'm going with the sequel. I've already started plotting it out, so it won't take us long.
Now, when you finish, do you hand it to your lovely wife Kelly to read it?
Oh yeah. The interesting thing is that she often wants to read it while I'm writing it, and I can't quote Stephen King off the verbatim, but basically he said something to the effect of, don't have an editor sitting on your shoulder, when you're writing it. You've got to be free to just let the thoughts flow. So as a result, that's what I do, and I don't let her read it until it's done.
Do you lock it away?
Well, she's good about not snooping,
And is she a good critic?
Very good. Oh yeah, yeah, she's excellent. Yeah.
And she catches you up on when this guy didn't do that or couldn't have?
Yeah, she does, and she also tells me, well, geez, this doesn't work for me, or this is exceptionally good. I mean, she's very honest with me. I have a lot of people who are who are supportive of me, but some of them just tell you what you want to hear, and that doesn't help me at all.
No.
I need to be, don't be mean, but be straightforward with me and just say, look, I don't like this because of this, or I do like this because of this, and that helps me to
do better, to make it more holistically welcoming to the world in itself. But in writing 3 books, these people are going to become part of your family.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It would take up 15 years of your life.
Well, hopefully not that long, but yeah. Oh, they do. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. They feel like real people, and you identify with them, and when they go through, it sounds weird to say of a fictional character, but when they go through a traumatic episode, you
Every
feel
4th page.
Yeah, it's true. It does happen a lot. Yeah.
I've never read a book. It wasn't boring, don't get me wrong, but it's so busy. There are no torrid love scenes.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody seems to keep their clothes on.
That's true.
No heavy-duty swear words, thank you, God.
Everybody keeps their clothes on, yet she becomes pregnant.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
In the end, I read it 3 times.
Oh, nice.
You absolutely confused me and befuddled my mind.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know. We'll tell you when the camera goes off and you tell me if I got it right.
Oh, okay. The reason she's saying that is because of I have a twist,
Yeah, and I must be taking a left at the lights because I'm just not getting the very end of it, which isn't a bad thing.
Right. Well, what I tried to do, and again, I'm all about the twists and the turns and the unpredictability. And so what I tried to do, I said, okay, I have to resolve the main storyline, obviously. So I do resolve the main storyline, which is dealing with her pregnancy. But at the end of it, I said, we've got to have a twist here that people are going to say, what? What's that? And that's what I wanted. And if you think about it, it kind of follows with the motif of the story, which is twisting and turning, twisting and turning. You never know who you can trust. You never know what's going to happen. And then at the end of it, boom, a nice twist. But the story itself is resolved. That through line is resolved.
But you left a few lines for the next one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Her mother-in-law not feeling well on the way as they go into hiding and all that kind of stuff.
That's right.
So you plant little seeds for the next garden. When do you think the next one will come out?
Well,
do you have deadline? Does a publisher assign you a
my
deadline?
publisher is good about not putting a deadline on me. If I had a larger publisher, they probably would, because they're more in tune with the marketplace. That, okay, you have to have this book out at a certain time. My publisher is pretty a lot of hands off, so she hasn't given me a hard time about it. But I have my allegiance to my readers, so yeah, I want to have it out by next year, in the very latest.
Did you pick the cover?
Yeah, we talked with my wife, and I consulted with the publisher about it, and we ultimately, it was my wife and I who came up with the ideas for that, and the publisher gave in her 2 cents. So, yeah.
Very good. Do you like this business of going out in the public and talking to your readers and meeting people?
Oh, I love it, because writing is such a solitary, and in fact, I say this in the afterword at the end of the book. Writing is such a solitary endeavor that you spend all your time, it's just you and the characters. You almost feel like you're in an asylum sometimes. And then being able to come out and talk to them, especially talking to people who are familiar with the story, like yourself, who's read it 3 times. It's good, because someone is now entered your world, and you can talk to them on that frame, on that reference.
And you led a very eclectic life growing up. What was this your end call? Did you want to be a writer?
I started out writing screenplays. I've always been fascinated with the film industry and stories in general, really. So I started out with screenplays, but I kept having this aspiration to write a novel, because you can do more with a novel than you can with a screenplay.
I'd like to see them adapt this to a screenplay, and will you do it?
I would love to, but the thing with Hollywood is if if a producer picked up the rights to this, they may want to bring in their own people.
Yeah, that's like letting your child go on the
Yeah,
school bus and
yeah.
you're standing at the curb.
That's right. That's right. And oftentimes you hear about authors who are unhappy with the film adaptation of their stories. I would love to be involved. If I'm not, that's okay, because I think the story can stand on its own. And I think that if it was ever adapted into a film, I think it would, whoever was in charge would be spending so much money, they would want to make sure that the story stayed intact. So.
And it crosses the centuries. And just last night on television, I must have seen 3 gladiators and 4 swordsmen coming out in coming attractions for the fall.
Oh, yeah.
So we are, as a population, getting into the medieval.
And Game of Thrones is huge. The thing about this story is, people ask me, oftentimes ask me, well, what would you compare it to? And I'm really hesitant to answer that question, but people need a frame of reference. So I will say it's somewhat like the Da Vinci Code, in the sense that it's set in the modern day, and my character is chasing clues like Robert Langdon did in the Da Vinci Code to find out something that happened in the past. But that's as far as it goes. It's more like I compare it more, if people are familiar with novels, the stuff that Steve Barry and James Rollins writes. Because I wanted to make sure that it was set in the modern day, and I wanted to bring the Charlemagne era to the modern day. And that's why I created it that way.
Did you have any trouble with little nuances like the car that they rode in and the name of the town that they were riding through? And
massive research.
Yeah, right.
Massive.
Heaven help you. I laugh so constantly as we watch television now, and you see it'll be a commercial about who to call for insurance or anything else. And they pick up the old black phone with a dial on it. and who's got one of them anymore?
Right.
But that's what they use in all of these commercials, is that old black, and that, I can't get over. You wouldn't be allowed to do that in writing.
No. And technology helped my story tremendously, because as my character is on the run and her belly is getting larger with the pregnancy, she is able to look on her smartphone and look up information about Charlemagne and find out, why is Charlemagne so important? Why are these people following me? What's so relevant? And in the old days, I would have had to go into a library,
archives,
or card catalogs and that sort of thing.
19 reams of copy paper and $25 in quarters.
Right, which would have slowed down my story dramatically. So that makes it easier.
Do you think the internet has enhanced the experience? Do you hear a lot from people on the web pages, on the comment areas?
Yeah, well, it's certainly from a writer's perspective, the internet's been fantastic. In fact, I almost as a joke put in my note at the end of the book that I want to thank Al Gore for inventing the internet, which I know he didn't invent it.
No, I was going to tell you, I know that one.
It's a joke. It was a joke, but I didn't put it in. But the internet was fantastic because I went to these places as well, and I did a tremendous amount of reading.
And that
books.
shows.
Yeah, thank you. But the internet was so easy, because as I'm writing along, I'm like, oh, wait a second, did I see this? Go to YouTube, and I could pull up a video of someone going through one of the cathedrals that I mentioned in my book. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'd pause it and say, okay, so this is station here, this is position here.
And they can hide in the bell tower of a church that has a bell tower, because you can see it.
That's right. So the internet has been fantastic that way. Now, from a reader's perspective, I do get feedback from people, and when I sell a book, when I sell it to somebody in person, I always give them my card and I say, please contact me. I'd love to hear back from you and tell me your thoughts on this book. Because I want to know. I really legitimately want to know what people think, because that is going to shape how I form out some of the consecutive stories.
Some people actually wouldn't want that.
Well, that's true. My mother-in-law, when she read the first draft of it, she said, well, I love this book, but I don't like the ending. The ending you're referring to, the twist at the very last
She
page.
about my age?
Actually, she is. Actually, she is.
Record that for the next one.
Right. Well, people are used to having their story 100% completely resolved by the end of it, and usually with a happy, feel-good feeling at the end of it, which I do have the happy, feel-good feeling, but I put a little twist in the end,
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It stays with you. And like I said, I went back and read it 3 times. What am I missing? Where did you pull this off that my eyes and brain didn't connect
Right.
to comprehend it.
Well, the way I think of it is this: if I'm gonna, and I said this earlier, if I'm gonna take the time to read a book, I want to be taken away, but I want to be enlightened. I want to be challenged. I want to learn something, and that's what I tried to do with this. And I wanted to make sure that the people were not bored.
No,
and
definitely
I,
not.
And I wanted to make sure that people felt like they got their money's worth, whatever they spent on the book, $12, $5, whatever. I wanted people to feel like, hey, this was worth it for me.
Well, thank you for sending me the book, because it was.
Thank you.
And we will leave it here in the studio.
Great.
And anybody who wants to can take it off the shelf and read it and enjoy it and refer back to the video.
Great. And my website is in the back of it. They can send me a message on my website.
And it can be purchased at Amazon?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's Long Live the King, as people can see. And my name is Cote, pronounced Cote.
Thank you very much. I mess up so many names, it isn't funny. I'm lucky
okay.
I can pronounce my own.
I always get Cote. People always say Cote.
Ethnic origin, German?
Franco-Canadian.
Well, thank you very much. We've had a ball and we're done.
Wow, that was quick.
Yes, see, time flies when you're having fun.
It does. I could have talked forever on this.
Well, yeah, and we could listen forever. Would you please bring your second one back?
I would be happy to.
When you come, and I hope it doesn't take 7 years.
It definitely won't.
Thank you for coming down today and being with us. Enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
The book is Long Live the King. His name is Guy Cote. Thank you. And it's a great book. It's just a great book. Have a good day. Bye.